Alright, this is Eddie Banks again, and I'm just opening up my court of record so I can just share. I know it's a lot of people out there in YouTube world and just in general that are nasty and say pretty harsh things, but you know, let me do me. Keep your comments to yourself. You know, you trying to, get a rise out of me, by being ignorant or whatever. I don't got time for it. But anyway, my first foundation of anything that I'm going to let you in on is my affidavit of reservation of rights. And it's in conjunction with UCC 1308 and 207. I also have a notice of acceptance for the Constitution and the oaths of office and the obligation thereof in regards to any state, federal judge or attorney or whoever wants to be a representative of the government. And it is filed in the county record for Broward County, Florida. And this is my first major action that I conducted, and it was a private action. I used a notary, did a notary presentment in relation to the termination of my job, and it ultimately left with ended up with the parties not responding, and a default was issued. And as that default was issued, a security agreement was generated, and the amount of damages is $10 million. This is a notice of transfer, bill of exchange. This is my active state primary signature, certification, another active state, and it was all apostille. But as a result, I attempted to collect this money, and the courts refused, absolutely refused. Even though I had it certified and it's a bona fide public record, due full faith and credit, it was ignored by, what is his name? Damn it. It escapes me right now. It'll pop in. Bowman. John Bowman. This is something different in regards to when I was in prison. Now, when I was in prison, I came across this book, Federal Civil Judicial Procedures and Rules. And I had plenty of time to go through it. And I followed the rule to my understanding and my comprehension using the law dictionary, and it got me nowhere. So while I was in prison, what I decided to do was convene my own private common law court. And the way that I did that is I called on a number of other inmates, and the notary that worked at the prison, her name was Rhonda K. Davis. And what essentially I called to order an independent tribunal of we the people, sovereign political power. You can look up those terms in the dictionary. And I had named judges in attendance. I had a chief judge, standard judge, magistrate judge, and I had these lists of witnesses. I had 8 witnesses. Now, for each of the judges, I had them take an oath of office similar to the one found in Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Well, they took the oath in front of the notary. The notary gave them the oath, and they accepted it. This is very similar to the standard oaths of offices that are taken by circuit court judges. So this was 1 judge, 2 judges, 3 judges, 4 judges, 5 judges. These are all oaths of office. 6 judges. And then we had a hearing. Let me see. Okay, now the hearing. This is the hearing. It's sealed as a private act of state, foreign judgment, Exhibit D, under the common law, and it's apostilled from the Secretary of State of Florida in regards to the capacity of the notary. Now, I gave a notice of hearing, and this was sent to Florida Attorney General, and it was also sent to the Governor Rick Scott. I gave them notices of hearing, let them know to take time, expecting them to respond, but of course they didn't. And this was a statement of sitting in bank of me impaneling the judges. These are witnesses again, the oath of office again. Okay. And I laid all of the information before them. Okay. Hold on. Power of appointment. Let me see. Now, at that hearing, I also had a power of appointment attorney, in fact. Really, I was just creating, let my imagination run wild. This is my certificate of authority. This was for my clerk of the tribunal. This certificate was sent to Florida Attorney General. It was sent to the U.S. Supreme Court. It was sent to the District Court in Southern for Miami and Fort Myers, the middle Florida district. And it was received with a judicial notice that was notarized under seal of the Secretary of State, and under judicial notice, Rule 81, especially when it's requested, it's mandated that they take it, but they ignored it. So I did a petition of judgment to the tribunal I set up, and the tribunal ultimately issued a judgment by default. This was the attorney, in fact, that was sworn in. Affidavit of military service. This is required by the rule when you're entering a default. The notice of default, certificate of service to the parties. This was the actual verdict. The impaneled jury. I have a foreman's signature. This is the final judgment that was rendered. Another final judgment. It was signed by a magistrate judge and 2 other judges and notarized by the notary. Petition for writ of execution. It was granted by the tribunal, and a caveat, judicial notice. Now, all of the information that this judgment was based upon was filed in the Supreme Court for the United States under private seal, and it has a private service, proof of service. Again, United States Supreme Court, and it was stated to be within the Admiralty and Maritime jurisdiction, but the court has denied me proceeding. It's an actual notice of all of the documents that I sent to various parties. Again, notarized and put in institutional mail. This was a declaration of my private family estate, the clan of Banks. I have a color flag, which is my flag of peace, and this is my war flag, which is a Jolly Rogers. And this is a declaration by 8 individuals who were sitting as jury and witness to the transaction. That was notarized. Motion to docket and affirm. These were all created using strict rules of procedure for the Supreme Court. There was a writ of habeas corpus in there. I have my stamps on there. A decree nisi means whatever I'm saying, the other party or some party has to show a reason why it shouldn't be granted, but they never responded whatsoever. Okay, I started with an application for summary determination, continuing writ of garnishment, various notices, notice of joiner of parties. Last time I counted, it was like 96 parties. Okay, so these are the exhibits that I sent to the Supreme Court. Exhibit A, which is notice of my private family flag. Apostille, act of state, primary signature verification, act of state, my expatriation from the corporate United States back into the de jure common law jurisdiction under the Constitution for the United States of America. This is my original, well, not original, but this is my first treaty of peace and notice of establishing a court of record. Again, that's also filed in the Broward County Clerk of Court, which is irrefutable. It's notarized. This is my first original identification that was in the public record. It had my photograph, my fingerprint. It had a DNA and hair sample. The original they confiscated from me, but I still have access to these in the public record, and they'll always be there from my understanding. This is my passport from the World Government of World Citizens in Washington, D.C. I had an identification card. This is my acceptance of all oaths of office. Again, it's a public record. Now, this is when I became an actual signator to the Constitution, granting to the United States their powers, duties, and responsibilities, where my instrumentality and agency, all caps name, Eddie Alexander Banks, and then me as the agent or principal, and I had that notarized, and that was filed into court. I had one both for the Constitution for the United States and one for the Florida Constitution of 1885 and any other constitution that was revised. Alright, now this is my quit claim deed was in regards to an adverse possession of property. I have a video, it's called BSO Gang in Action, where I had the original affidavit of warranty deed, notarized, sent to the Secretary of State, acknowledged. It was my property, it's still my property according to record, and it was taken from me. My YouTube channel is the Groove Movie, and BSO Gang in Action is when they actually came and took the house from me. Alright, this is an affidavit of me outlining the beating and torture I sustained at the hands of Broward County Sheriff's deputies. When I was in prison, they forced me to work in the kitchen and other places, and I gave them true indenture, which states that it was against my will, but the threat of being put in confinement was the only reason why I was working, and I got 2 people to witness it. And every day that they had me go to work in prison, I signed the days that I worked, and then lo and behold, the corrections officers started signing for me, and I told them I wanted to keep a personal record. It's just me, and they initial. So I have the initials of state individuals, recognizing that I indeed was working at the prison. Okay, this is my foreign certificate of authenticity, that everything is in according to federal and state rules of evidentiary procedure. Now, when I went to trial, they tried me for assault on a law enforcement officer, and they came to my house. They shot up my house. Well, I was in an apartment after they seized the house from me. Shot up my apartment. They gassed it. They shot my dog, killed my dog. I have some videos of my dog Layla, white American bull, loved her, that they killed. But at any rate, when I went to prison, they tried me in front of a jury wearing jailhouse clothes and flip-flops. They gave me a shirt from the judge that he brought from his house, and it says, it states that the shirt worn by the defendant, Mr. Banks, in court on November 25th, 2014, has been cleared by Detention Deputy Johnson. Respectfully, the court requests that the defendant, Mr. Banks, shall wear the same shirt in court 4:15 on Wednesday, November 26th. Trial was at 9 a.m. Now, I was wearing flip-flops, jail pants, jail socks, jail t-shirt, and he gave me his button-up shirt to put over it. And I presented my case, and I've been trying to get the transcripts or CD or video of the occurrence in court, but they've never released it to me. Let's see. It's a statement of enclave of the clan of Banks. So basically, I was just running my own government, my own private Article 4 government. Okay. I also appointed a stand-in attorney for the state of Florida, and that attorney entered the objection of judgment. Now that objection was logged, and it was mailed out, and he submitted an application to arrest judgment. One of the judges on the panel issued an order, which is signed and notarized, to arrest the judgment that was derived from the tribunal that was set up to operate in the private. So, order for arrest judgment. There was a session or a meeting held on the 12th, December 30th, 2015 at 1 p.m. Notice was sent to all relevant parties. No one responded. Okay, I was trying to look for a statement that I got from the Secretary of State, which stated, not from the Secretary of State, from the what was it? Damn it. From the Florida Attorney General, which states they gave a waiver. They said they weren't going to respond, which was a default. So the tribunal, they had issued a final judgment in rem, claiming the admiralty jurisdiction, and these are orders of that private tribunal. We the undersigned and their witnessed, and this area is blank for me to write my orders in. And again, it's notarized, been and verified by the Secretary of State. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blank orders. So in the event I get any type of enforcement, I'm going to activate these orders. All right. This is a private filing that I filed in federal court under foreign judgment. and I sealed it because it has some, information really the public, the powers that be, don't want them to have. So I have my actual deed, non-UCC, transfer by deed. Let's see. Another non-UCC. Okay, notice to all law enforcement. Derivative bank action. Actual notice invoking the Constitution and the laws. So these are just some documents that I filed. Actual notice of government, foreign bar, ex-con artists, violations of their constitutional oath of office, insurrection of the bar courts. So private contract, me stating, in a private contract action, I am the judge, I am the court. My word is my bond and enforceable ruling. But no one's trying to give me enforcement. But I'm going to keep going till I see some justice. Actual notice of default. Have my embossed seal here. These are the actual notices that I sent to the federal court after all parties were served. This is the summons and the civil action received, and they were executed. It has the seal of the court, and the service officer served all parties, but the court rejected it. They dismissed the case. I requested entry of judgment as a matter of law. If you don't respond, it's a default by their rules, by their standards, by the law. Those are a number of defaults that I drew up and entered into the record. So that matter has been resolved. This is my certificate of live birth, marriage certificate. Now, what I did was I turned the Secretary of State's certificate of authority into a check, and I've combined the amounts. Well, this is the amount of damages: $119,100,950. Okay, and yeah. So these are based on the public record. And the public record is basically, I took these originals and I filed them in the public record. This is the Secretary of State's certificate of authority. That's his notary. This is my act of state identification with my fingerprints, my picture, my non-UCC. Another certificate of authority, certificate of identity, affidavit of statement, ownership and emancipation document. These are my fees that are part of the public record, and that's what I'm going to be charging. My baptismal record and birth certificate, and that is in the public record. Another document, notice of cause of action that the Alexander Banks perfected American Admiralty lien life estate deed. This is a listing of all of my public records that I found. My certificate of authority, notarized. This is my foreign judgment letter of credit. These are the liens for each of the parties. Again, notarized, non-UCC. And these are the listed judges who have violated their oath of office and have acted as criminals against me and against their oath of office. This is my notice of claim of Admiralty lien. It's been posted, notarized, I have the certificate of authority for all parties, amounting for that 119 million, 10 million, 80,000, 119 million, 10 million, 500,000, 10 million. This is my 1522 SF form in regards to collecting the liens that I've established. Again, they are notarized. This is my individual banking resolution act in minutes. Banking resolution, parties that were in attendance, notice of the public record, signed by the secretary, and then the issuance of my employee tax identification number and certified copies of those documents. So this is my court of record, and I'm not getting any response, which is fine. I've sent documents to the Treasury because I'm attempting to have these liens to be deposited in the U.S. Treasury and have the credits released. So that's what I'm working on. I'm just sharing. Like I say, I'm all about truth. My information is open information. It is what it is, or it is what it should not be. But again, I'm just sharing with the public. And if if any way any of this can inspire you to do something and fight on your own accord, then so be it.